Good evening and welcome to SVG-TV News for this afternoon, Wednesday, March 24th. I'm Triska Campbell with the details. A 1% increase of the customs service charge will affect the cost of living in SVG, which is an added burden to Vincentian people. So says opposition leader Dr. Godwin Friday, who at a virtual news conference today said because of the new tax measure, the value-added tax will automatically increase, which will be registered when persons purchase from supermarkets.
This is because the VAT is charged on the goods on the value of the goods after the customs service charge has been added to it. And since we have a higher customs service charge now, from 5 to 6%, it means that the value of those goods will go up and the VAT will be assessed on that basis. So it is compounding the effect of the increase in the customs service charge.
Dr. Friday said that the increase in tax has already been applied in some businesses.
Some prices in the stores have already gone up. This is what has been reported to me because of the increase in the customs service charge. I've spoken to people who are in the retail business, merchants, and they have said that the effect of the increase in the customs service charge is that they will, as merchants, as business people, essentially pass that cost on to the consumer.
The opposition leader had asked that the 1% tax increase be deferred to a later time, taking into consideration the pandemic. At today's news conference, he said that moving ahead with the tax measure shows that the government is not in touch with the people of SVG.
Is walking to the beat, or I should say the wrong beat, of the wrong drum. In other words, it is not in tune with the times. This tax is evidence that the government, if you need it anymore, is out of touch with the real situation, the real day-to-day situation of the people of this country. When you could say, instead of coming and saying, listen, we know this is going to hurt a little. In some people it's going to hurt a lot. But we need it. In the parliament, it is a different approach. That the opposition making a fuss about an increase that is negligible. You put in 97 cents on a case of leg quartz.
No one should be forced to take vaccines. Which is what the government seems to be doing. That's the view of opposition leader Dr. Godwin Friday at the virtual news conference today. Dr. Friday has already taken his first dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine and is encouraging Vincentians to take the jab, which he said would help bring back some level of normalcy in SVG, but noted that persons should not be pressured to do so.
No one should threaten you or anybody about vaccination. You know, I have been consistent in this. I have told you that I have come, I have done it. I said from the very beginning I would do so because I believe it is safe and it is necessary for us to do so to get back to our lives. But nobody should threaten anybody or make them feel that somehow, you know, they are, their fears or in many cases, in some cases are not worth exploring.
The opposition leader disagrees with the government's strategy of getting people to get vaccinated, noting the recent comments made by Prime Minister Dr. Alf Gonsalves about the hosting of Carnival this year and the increase of the passenger capacity of omnibuses if persons get vaccinated.
By government to van drivers that if they take the vaccine, they can somehow increase the number of passengers that they can carry. It doesn't appear to be based on a public health requirement. What sense does it make to offer an incentive if it's not bound or grounded in the science as to what is safe in the vans or not? Recently as well, I heard there's some enticement from government telling young people if they get vaccinated that maybe they can have carnival. This is, to me, this is sending the wrong message. It's trivializing the very important decision that people have to make.
The Ministry of Health collaborated with the Royal St. Vincent and the Grenadines Police Force today for a vaccination drive in front of the police headquarters today. This is also a part of the campaign of taking the vaccine to the people in Kingstown with another drive at the Victoria Park. Deputy Commissioner of Police Frankie Joseph told SVG-TV News today that many Vincentians are reluctant of taking the vaccine, but there were those who are interested, but due to time constraints, they could not do so, and today's drive was to give them the opportunity to take the jab.
As a matter of fact, it is very important for the police because we are security, and it is important that we are actually, we actually safeguard our members and ensure that our members are safe from corona, because the organization was seriously affected. As a matter of fact, almost all of the hierarchy at one time or the other were tested positive, and it had seriously affected the workforce itself, with the lower ranks being tested and away from work. So therefore we see the need that even though that there was a station set up at Victoria Park, we see the need to bring one closer to the police.
Nurse Suzette Kojo supervised today's vaccination drive outside the Central Police Station. She said while it was slow, the morning sessions saw close to 40 persons vaccinated.
Most people still have the reservation about taking the vaccine, so we are encouraging persons. We are still motivated to encourage them because we know what our goal is to get 70% of our population to be vaccinated. So we are still encouraged as to encourage persons and to alleviate their fears and their doubts in terms of what are their doubts about taking the vaccines, and we try to answer their questions as best as possible in order for them to be comfortable taking the vaccine. And the uptake has been a little slow, but persons are coming. They come in one by one, but we are still encouraged by them coming, and a few of the officers have came, and persons as inspectors and other persons have come, and we are really encouraged by that.
Meanwhile, some of the persons who got vaccinated today said that they were pleased that the vaccination drive was held in the middle of the city, as it made it easier for them to take the jab. The nurse observing the process and those who got vaccinated said there were no adverse reactions from the vaccine.
You just telling them, okay, the date when they're coming back, and like you reiterate that, okay, the side effects, the normal side effects that they can be getting, so the information will be instilled throughout. And they can also take 2 Panadols in the event that they have a fever or a headache. That's about it. So for the observation so far, the clients, they have been asking questions, and so far we haven't had anyone with any severe reaction. I have been observing for some time. I was at park also. No one has been getting any severe reaction.
St. Vincent and the Grenadines recorded 3 new positive cases of COVID-19 from 189 samples collected on Monday, March 22nd, 2021, giving a positivity rate of 1.6%. 6 new recoveries were reported, bringing the total number of recoveries to 1,529. 164 cases remain active, and 10 persons with COVID-19 have died. 1,703 cases of COVID-19 have been recorded in SVG since March 2020. The public is urged to consistently use masks, sanitize, physically distance, and get vaccinated to reduce the spread of the COVID-19 in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. New protocols are in place at Her Majesty's prisons, Kingstown and Belial, following a disruption a few days ago. Visits to inmates will resume on April 1st, 2021, under the following conditions. There will be a maximum of 10 visitors per day. Each inmate would be allowed 2 visitors per month. Each visit would be for a duration of 10 minutes. Only 2 persons may visit an inmate at the time. Visits will continue to be facilitated by appointments only. A proper identification must be presented before a visit is allowed. The standard COVID-19 protocols are also to be adhered to. Physiological impact of COVID-19 felt by children with special needs. This and other stories when we return with more local news. Stay with us. Welcome back. Continuing now with more local news. Being away from school for several months due to the COVID-19 situation in the country has affected the children with special needs socially, economically, physically, and psychologically. In an interview with SVG-TV's news team, counselor at the School for Children with Special Needs, Charlene Azor, said that some of the children are now in an environment that most persons are unable to understand them. She added that the children are unable to do their daily routine, which can be a problem for those with autism.
Really it's like big. You have more issues, more problems, more difficulties based on the type of challenge the child has. For example, a child who is ASD, who's on the spectrum for autism, that child can be really a handful, especially if the parent, the caregivers are not quite sure as how to deal with those children, because they have issues with communication, right? So children on the spectrum, some of them, even though they might have the language, it's not sufficient for them to like express, some of them, right? Because the spectrum goes like from a higher order, then we have middle and low. So based on where you fall, your issues are different.
Azor said parents who have children with special needs have also been affected, leading to frustration and depression as they are unable to relate and communicate with their children because of their conditions. She also noted that some parents are financially challenged and have been unable to get sitters to help with their children on a daily basis.
A lot of parents want the children to come back to school, right? Yes, so if I can't deal with the child, as I said earlier, spanking is the best thing to quiet that child and get. Sometimes all the child might need is a drink of water, you know. Sometimes the child might just want to sleep, but then I don't have the language to say, Mommy, I want some water, Mommy, I want to sleep, right? Sometimes also when you see them going to try to help themselves, you like up in arms, or they might do some sort of damage, self-damage or something. So the parent now has to learn to allow the child to be independent. You teach them life skills, because the truth is a parent might not outlive the child would outlive the parent. And then what happens to that child? I have a special needs child, and my whole life is around this child.
The counselor is appealing to members of the public to lend support to the children with special needs and their parents in this difficult time.
In St. Vincent, who can help, we work in tandem with the Ministry of Social Mobilization. We also get help from the Ministry of Education. But there are other stakeholders, let's say private entities, who would also contribute in terms of maybe offering some sort of help to parents and stuff like that. So it has to cover like every aspect of the child's life to be ideal, right? We haven't reached there as yet in St. Vincent, and I hope maybe in my lifetime I would be able to see that.
St. Vincent and the Grenadines Brewery Limited on Monday, March 22nd, handed over 1,000 rapid response antigen kits, 500 N95 masks, and 500 disposable gowns valued at $50,000 to the Ministry of Health, Wellness, and the Environment. Sinclair Jimmy Prince, speaking at a handing over ceremony remotely, country manager of the St. Vincent Brewery Limited, Shafia London, said the items are to be used by the nation's first responders and medical staff.
Items are to be directly used by our first responders and medical staff to maintain their current phase of detection, isolation and quarantine, and general support for those affected by this virus.
She noted that the brewery's long-standing position as a corporate entity in St. Vincent and the Grenadines demands the current level of periodical support as a form of its social commitment. London added that the money spent for the items is incomparable to the life it can save.
Something like this is one that we are very proud to support. If the decision today helps to save even one life, it is a decision that was worth the spend. A spend which is in excess of $100,000 is hardly a figure to consider in comparison to protect and save lives.
Farmers in North Leeward received the first portion of 1,500 sacks of fertilizer on Tuesday, March 23, 2021. The donation was made possible through the Zero Hunger Trust Fund grant. Speaking at a handing over ceremony at the Agricultural Import Warehouse where the fertilizers are stored, Minister of Agriculture Saboto Caesar said the assistance comes as part of the initiative to produce commodities in St. Vincent and the Grenadines that will lower importations.
Was a meeting held in the constituency of North Leeward, and the decision was to establish a production platform in that particular area where we will be targeting several commodities for import substitution and also to produce several commodities to reduce the national food import bill. I am happy this morning that we are able to deliver the first tranche of 1,500 sacks of fertilizer that will go towards assisting farmers in production. When we analyzed the food import bill of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, we recognize that we have a food import bill as of 2020 of $200 million. If we are to discount half of this, because some of these commodities cannot be produced in St. Vincent and the Grenadines because they are grown in different regions of the world where temperature levels have to be different. Therefore, we are down to probably $100 million worth of commodities that we can produce locally.
Minister Caesar says the initiative is important for all farmers across St. Vincent and the Grenadines and gave the example of the weekly importation of $500 worth of English potatoes, which he says the ministry will strive to produce locally. In short order, he said the ministry will be identifying areas that can be used to cultivate that crop as well.
We are going to see a commodity approach adopted this year, whereby several farmers will be selected. Persons who have lands, we will do the soil testing on these lands. We will look at the temperature levels where these lands are, and we would also address and assess the issue of rainfall where there is no irrigation in place. So we are going to work with these farmers throughout this year. This is just the first phase of assistance. The second phase of assistance will be to have the technology transfer to grow these commodities.
The present food stabilization project, which Minister Caesar says will be ongoing for years, has already commenced with the collection of farmers' names and produce being grown in order to provide matching solutions which will see farmers able to find a market for their goods. The minister also gave the assurance that food prices will strive to remain competitive and thanked persons who have entered the agricultural sector.
It is very important that as we produce more locally, that our citizens will support our farmers, support our food producing stakeholders, and will buy more locally produced food. It is also critical that as we produce more, that the food prices will be competitive, not only regionally, but internationally. I want to especially thank the young people in agriculture, because I know that there are a lot of persons who are working on increasing and improving the mechanization available.
The Minister of Tourism and Parliamentary Representative for North Leeward, Carlos James, in thanking Minister Caesar for his speedy response to farmers in the North Leeward area for increased food production, said by increasing the farmers' productivity competitively, opportunities can be afforded for linking tourism and agriculture.
Roughly 60% of the large hotels within the region, a lot of them import their produce. And if we can get farmers up to a level competitively where they can supply the tourism sector on a very reliable basis, a consistent basis, we can naturally see this production, this cross-ministerial and this linkage between the agritourism sector that can bring these benefits to St. Vincent and the Grenadines and to other farmers within the region. So it's important that we have this collaborative approach and we work in tandem to ensure that we deliver the support that is needed to the stakeholders, both in the Ministry of Tourism, but importantly within the agricultural sector and the farmers who are working so hard to ensure that we bring their productivity levels up to a particular level.
The first batch of farmers were on hand to receive their fertilizers. In the coming weeks, farmers will be able to access the fertilizers on a selection basis due to COVID-19 protocols.